You know that feeling, right? When you're pouring all your energy into something important,
Hmm.
but it feels like you're constantly just chasing the next dollar, the next grant, that sort of constant grind.
Oh, yeah, just trying to keep things afloat. It's exhausting.
Well, the material we've got for you today, it offers a completely different way of looking at how meaningful work can be sustained and even amplified.
It's fascinating, really, as we dig into these excerpts from Future Church, Future Mission.
Hmm.
It's like a fundamental challenge to that, traditional solo fundraising model.
Right.
The sources are basically saying the real power isn't just in like one person trying to get resources,
No.
but in building something much more interconnected, more resilient, maybe.
Exactly. So we're diving into this idea of moving away from that isolated struggle,
Yeah.
and more towards embracing partnerships and what the book actually calls multiplying generosity.
Multiplying generosity. I like that.
Yeah. Think of it maybe as a potential shortcut, a way to see your impact expand exponentially. It's just a fundamentally different way to think about building movements that last.
And the sources really push us, don't they, to rethink our relationship with supporters.
How so?
Well, instead of just seeing them as, donors on a list,
Okay.
they suggest we see them as potential multipliers, people who can be equipped, to give, but also to inspire others, maybe mentor them.
Like co-builder.
Exactly. Co-builders of a lasting legacy. It's almost like a train the trainer idea, but applied to generosity and mission.
Okay, so for you, the listener who's looking to, get the core insights pretty quickly, pretty effectively, this deep dive is going to be, I think, incredibly valuable. We'll even uncover some surprising historical links.
Right. Connections back to the very beginnings of the faith.
Yeah, get ready for some real aha moments, I think, as we explore the power of connection, shared purpose. And we'll try to do it without, drowning you in details.
Okay, so let's unpack this big idea then. Multiplying partnerships. The book kicks off with a really thought-provoking starting point, doesn't it?
Which part?
The idea that the next big movement might not come from, say, one charismatic leader or some massive campaign.
Right, not the usual suspects.
No, but from maybe a subtle but really profound shift in how we actually cultivate and multiply generosity. What does that framing make you think of initially?
For me, it immediately sparks the idea of scalability,
Yeah.
the potential for every single act of generosity to actually spark more generosity as the people you connect with become connectors themselves. That feels like a real game changer.
It flips that scarcity mindset.
Totally. Flips that feeling of constant scarcity right on its head and points towards what the source calls this untapped opportunity.
Yeah.
It's about building something with inherent organic growth built in.
Precisely. And the text makes a really clear distinction here. True support isn't just about, balancing the books at the end of the month. It's about creating a ripple effect, multiplying givers, multiplying the people who are served, and ultimately multiplying the kingdom's impact.
Fostering what they call a self-perpetuating engine of generosity.
Exactly. Which immediately brings up a practical question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where do our traditional fundraising approaches often fall short? Why don't they usually create this kind of self-sustaining momentum?
Well, the source points out that traditional models tend to be, and these are their words, painfully linear.
Linear. How so?
You're constantly focused on getting that next big donation, right? And because of that, you miss the chance to actually equip whole generations in, the principles of stewardship or in the practice of mentoring others and generosity.
And the consequence of that.
Well, potentially transformative strategic partnerships just never even get off the ground. They don't happen.
And that linear focus, I imagine, can also lead to a sense of isolation, maybe even burnout for the leaders.
Oh, absolutely. You must see that. The relentless pressure just to secure funding can sometimes completely overshadow the actual mission they're trying to advance.
Yeah. The why gets lost in the how.
Exactly. And that's where this concept, this shift from lone missionaries to multiplying partnerships becomes so compelling. The book uses this really powerful image of vast celestial tapestry, woven with countless individual threads.
Okay.
And maybe for too long, our understanding of mission has focused too much on that one single prominent thread, the individual leader.
Right, a hero figure.
But the kingdom, it argues, truly flourishes when countless lives, countless efforts are all interwoven together, like that tapestry.
And what's really fascinating here is how they ground this idea historically. Specifically, biblical precedents.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, the sources highlight examples right from the start, like Barnabas and Saul being sent out together.
Right, not alone.
Exactly. Emphasizing shared responsibility, mutual support right from the beginning.
Yeah.
It wasn't about a solitary hero going off on a mission by themselves.
And that partnership we see between Paul and the churches, like in Philippi and Thessalonica, that's so crucial too.
Absolutely. He consistently acknowledged their, quote, partnership in the gospel.
Yeah, right. Recognizing that their prayers, their financial gifts, even their hospitality, it was all essential. It fueled his ministry.
It really underscores this maybe counterintuitive principle that mission thrives when multiple hands and hearts get involved.
And the concept of koinonia, the sources bring this up.
Which means?
Well, it's more than just like shared activities. It's presented as a deep spiritual fellowship, a shared life, a shared mission. It's central here.
Okay.
The text digs into 2 Corinthians chapters 8 and 9, explaining that generosity rooted in the gospel isn't just, an obligation.
Right, not just duty. No, it's an expression of this spiritual partnership, this kind of profound self-giving from both those who give and those who receive. That's what creates the multiplying effect.
Wow. So it truly moves beyond just the simple financial transaction.
Way beyond.
To this idea of co-laborers. Everyone deeply invested in the mission's success. It's not just writing a check and, feeling like your part is done.
It's active participation in a shared endeavor.
Okay.
And think about Jesus' metaphor of the vine and the branches in John 15. That gives us another way to see this growth.
Yeah, so?
Well, branches don't thrive in isolation, do they? Their life, their fruitfulness, it comes from abiding in the vine.
Yeah, the connection is vital.
Exactly. This multiplying partnership model mirrors that. It emphasizes how critical it is for churches and those, on the front lines of mission to stay deeply connected.
And if you think about the practical side, imagine 10 churches praying and giving together for a shared goal.
Yeah.
They're going to generate a much bigger impact than, say, 10 individual sponsors just operating on their own, right?
Oh, for sure. It's that synergy, that collective effort. That's what unlocks greater fruitfulness.
Makes sense.
The source even includes a really compelling real-world example from Southeast Asia. A typhoon struck, relief was needed urgently,
Yeah, okay.
and a network of local congregations partnered directly with diaspora churches like in North America. What stood out to you about that story?
Well, the speed, definitely.
Yeah.
The speed of the response and also the depth of the connection that was forged.
How so?
They didn't have to wait for some big traditional centralized mission agency to sort everything out.
Right.
Local leaders right there on the ground identified the needs, the diasporic communities quickly mobilized resources, and the mission workers who were already there coordinated the response.
So it fostered
What?
mutual interdependence.
Exactly. Rather than just a one-way flow of charity, it felt more like equals working together.
Yeah, that makes a difference. And from that kind of concrete example, the book then transitions into practical pathways.
Yeah.
How do you intentionally cultivate these multiplying partnerships?
Wait, the how-to.
Things like Kingdom Vision sessions, designed to map out all the diverse gifts and callings within a local church,
Okay.
and forming partnership hubs that connect different groups around specific shared projects.
And in today's world, leveraging digital platforms is absolutely key, isn't it?
Huge.
Short video updates from the field, maybe WhatsApp prayer chains connecting partners in real time.
Yeah, virtual sending ceremonies.
Right. Bridging those geographical distances. These things help keep partners, no matter how far away they are, really intimately involved in the work.
And I particularly liked the emphasis on telling reciprocal stories.
Reciprocal, meaning?
Meaning those serving on the ground aren't just sharing their needs, but also what they are learning from the local believers they're working alongside.
So it cultivates humility, mutual respect.
Exactly. It shifts away from that purely top-down dynamic we sometimes see.
It really does seem to transform that old transactional funding model into this vibrant, dynamic tapestry of shared life and shared mission.
And the impact goes way beyond just the financial side, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It ignites prayer movements. It facilitates exchanging skills and talents.
Builds cultural bridges through diaspora believers.
Crucial stuff. But let's be realistic. The source also acknowledges that no partnership is perfect, right? There are challenges.
For sure. Issues around trust, effective communication, cultural sensitivity, those are pretty much inevitable.
So what were some of the key strategies mentioned for navigating those potential friction points?
Well, building trust intentionally, often gradually, using both in-person and virtual interactions.
Okay, takes time.
Prioritizing complete transparency,
Yeah.
especially in budgets and reporting, That's huge.
Yeah, transparency is key.
And crucially, honoring local wisdom by empowering indigenous leaders to actually set the priorities.
Got it. Not just imposing priorities from outside.
Right. Those all stood out as essential for fostering healthy long-term partnerships.
Makes sense.
And ultimately, the vision painted is of this global interwoven mission effort where every church sees itself as both a sender and someone who is sent, where prayer, talent, financial resources, they all flow along these dynamic two-way streams.
It's about truly embodying the nature of Christ's body, right? Diverse members, but united in a common mission.
Exactly.
It's a powerful invitation then to reimagine our own role. The book poses some really good questions like, how might my own church become a more intentional hub for this kind of shared life and giving?
Yeah, or who are the perhaps unseen partners God might be calling me to connect with?
Right. What kind of story of mutual transformation could we maybe start writing today?
So moving beyond that foundational understanding, the source keeps building on this tapestry metaphor, right?
It does.
It shines a light on some historical threads of collaborative mission. People like Priscilla and Aquila nurturing Apollos.
Oh, yeah. Good example.
And that mentoring relationship between Paul and Timothy. What key lessons do those enduring examples offer us about, the core nature of really effective partnership?
Well, they really underscore how multifaceted partnership is. It's not just one thing.
How so?
Priscilla and Aquila, they offered not just like financial support, but also hospitality, mentorship, evangelistic zeal.
Right, the whole package.
Yeah. And Paul and Timothy's relationship, that demonstrated that vital kind of father-son bond in the faith, that mutual encouragement that sustains people in long-term mission. It's clearly not just about one type of contribution.
And the theological underpinnings here are so critical. The source connects this whole partnership concept to the very nature of the triune God.
The Trinity itself.
Yeah, that perfect communion, the shared purpose, the seamless communication within the Trinity. It prompts a really deep question for reflection.
Which is?
How might our own partnerships deepen, become more impactful if we intentionally approached each other as fellow image bearers of this triune God?
Wow, that moves way beyond just transactional relationships.
Exactly. It's about reflecting a divine model of unity and purpose.
It really shifts your perspective, doesn't it? From just seeing each other as, supporters or field workers to recognizing that inherent dignity and shared identity we have in Christ.
And the section on contemporary imperatives addresses a key paradox of our time.
What's that?
While we're globally connected in ways we never imagined,
Right, hyper-connected.
we're also often deeply fragmented. It highlights how things like digital prayer networks, crowdsourced funding platforms, even virtual apprenticeships,
Okay.
how these can be intentionally stewarded in partnership to weave the global body of Christ more tightly together.
So using the tools.
Right. A key insight here is the untapped potential of digital tools. They're not just for communication. They can be strategically leveraged
Yeah.
to build these virtual vineyards of collaboration.
Virtual vineyards. Interesting.
Yeah, transcending geographical limits, pooling diverse expertise in ways that were, frankly, unimaginable before.
So it's about strategically harnessing the very technologies that sometimes isolate us
Exactly.
to actually forge stronger connections and facilitate meaningful collaboration across vast distances.
And the practical patterns offered are so tangible, like the importance of articulating a common vision together, not just one group dictating it.
Okay, shared vision.
The process of mapping the unique gifts and also the pressing needs within a community.
Makes sense. Knowing what you have and what you need.
Establishing small, focused partnership circles, and intentionally using storytelling to highlight the real-world impact of collaboration.
These sound like concrete, actionable steps, things that move beyond just the theory of partnership
Right.
to actually implementing it effectively within local churches, within mission-focused organizations. So for you listening, if you're leading maybe a smaller initiative, this idea of starting with a Kingdom Vision session in your core group could be a really practical first step.
And the story shared from Southeast Asia about the young entrepreneurs serving unreached islands.
That really brings this concept to life, doesn't it?
Remind me.
You've got a retired couple in Canada,
Click.
a digital marketing agency based in Brazil,
Wow, diverse.
and a prayer group in Manila, all contributing their very different but vital gifts toward one shared vision.
That's beautiful. It really illustrates how the entire weight of the mission wasn't just resting on one person or one group.
Wow.
It was this powerful convergence of diverse threads, creating a robust, resilient tapestry of partnership.
Leading to tangible, lasting impact.
Yeah. But like any intricate weaving process, there are bound to be challenges, right?
Always. Mismatched expectations, cultural blind spots that can hinder understanding, the risk of burnout.
So what are the redemptive strategies offered for dealing with those?
Things like establishing clear, mutually agreed upon partnership agreements. Investing in cross-cultural training, that's huge.
And intentionally encouraging sabbaticals and peer support for everyone involved, looking after the weavers, essentially.
Addressing those inevitable knots in the weaving process intentionally, it actually strengthens the overall fabric of the partnership, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Leads to more resilient, sustainable collaborations in the long run.
So the overarching vision for the future is this kind of interconnected network, these tapestry hubs.
That's the idea. Local churches serving as anchors, digital platforms facilitating connection, mission agencies maybe adapting their roles.
All linked by
A shared vision, transparent communication, and genuine mutual care. It's a future where every contribution, no matter how small it seems, meaningfully adds to the collective witness.
It really is a powerful and inspiring call to find your unique place within that tapestry.
Yeah.
Whether your main gift is prayer or financial resources or specific skills or maybe just passionate advocacy, there's a vital, meaningful role for you to play in this grand design.
Then the source digs into what it calls the heart of kingdom partnership, using this compelling analogy of two vines intentionally intertwined, sharing the same soil,
And the result?
bearing richer, more abundant fruit together. It emphasizes that this goes way beyond just a simple ledger of give and take.
Right, not just balancing the books.
No, it's about a life-giving interdependence that actually reflects the very nature of the Trinity.
And that brings us back to that essential theological foundation again, doesn't it? Partnership isn't just like a good strategy.
Yeah.
It's woven into the very fabric of God's being. Jesus' prayer in John 17 for unity among believers. It wasn't just about everyone getting along nicely.
Right. It reflects God's own relational nature.
Wow.
And the analogy of the body in 1 Corinthians 12 is so incredibly relevant here, too.
And different parts of the body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every single part, no matter how seemingly insignificant on its own, is absolutely essential to the overall functioning, the health of the whole body.
So kingdom partnership really thrives on that mutual need, that interdependence.
Yes, not on isolated independence.
Yeah. And when you think about all those one another commands throughout the New Testament,
There are so many.
bear one another's burdens, encourage one another, hold one another accountable, it really highlights that this relational aspect isn't just a suggestion.
No, it's like the very DNA of gospel partnership. These aren't optional extras for people who happen to be particularly relational.
Right.
It moves beyond just investing financial resources to a much deeper investment of the heart, our time, our encouragement, our vulnerability even.
Like Priscilla and Aquila again, not just funding Paul, but welcoming him into their home.
Exactly. That holistic personal investment.
So it's about intentionally shifting away from a transactional mindset. You know, what can I get out of this? Or what am I obligated to give?
Right. And moving towards more of a covenantal commitment, rooted in God's unwavering promise, not just in the ups and downs of human performance.
Okay, covenantal, not just contractual.
Precisely. And the practical roadmap offered for cultivating this kind of deep kingdom partnership is really helpful.
What does it include?
Intentionally rooting the partnership in prayerful alignment first.
Okay, start with prayer.
Clearly articulating a shared vision that all the partners really embrace. Defining roles not just as tasks, but as expressions of unique gifts.
Ah, that's different.
Establishing mutual accountability structures. And celebrating every shared step of fruitfulness along the way.
Those sound like concrete, actionable steps anyone could take to elevate collaborations from just being transactional to a much deeper, more transformative level of engagement.
And the story shared about Elisa, the young pastor, and her mentor, Pastor John, that really beautifully exemplifies this heart-level partnership, doesn't it? Even across geographical boundaries.
It wasn't just about what they could do for each other in a task sense.
No, not primarily. It was about the intentional pouring of their hearts, their wisdom, their encouragement into that relationship.
And the envisioned future, then, is of a church defined by covenant, not just contract.
Exactly. Where moments of disappointment are met with empathy and understanding. And where every financial gift carries with it the heartfelt intention, the power of prayer. It's about building genuine community in a world that seems so desperate for it.
Wow.
The final invitation in that section is quite personally challenging, I thought, reflecting on our current alliances
Okay.
and taking those initial, maybe small steps to actually pray together, to share with vulnerability, to reaffirm that sense of covenant.
It's about consciously joining that divine dance of partnership, as they put it.
Yeah, the dance that's been at the heart of the Trinity from the very beginning.
Okay, so the sources then dig into the foundational biblical roots of multiplying impact.
Right, going back to the source code, so to speak, starting with the Trinity itself as that first perfect partnership.
Inviting humanity from the start to co-labor with God.
Exactly, in the ongoing work of creation. And the Old Testament gives us such clear blueprints for multiplied leadership, too.
Like Moses sharing his burden with the elders.
Precisely. And Joshua being intentionally mentored and consistently supported by people like Aaron and Hur.
And these weren't shown as signs of weakness, right?
Not at all. They were presented as redemptive strategies for growth, for wider impact.
And those powerful New Testament examples we touched on, Priscilla and Aquila, Paul and Timothy, even the women with prophetic gifts who often get overlooked, they really reinforce this idea that every collaborator brings unique, valuable gifts. And when you bring them together, it just amplifies the effectiveness of the whole thing.
In Philippians 1.5, Paul's heartfelt gratitude for their partnership in the gospel.
Yeah.
That beautifully highlights that deep spiritual connection that transcends distance, fueled by prayer, presence where possible, and generous provision.
And that picture in Acts 2, the radical generosity in the early church.
An amazing passage.
It demonstrates this wasn't just like an economic thing. It was a powerful spiritual catalyst.
Yeah.
It fostered deep unity and really significant growth.
And even Jesus' own model of disciple making.
Intentionally investing deeply in a smaller group.
Yes, to ultimately reach the multitudes. It underscores the enduring power of mentorship, the strategic importance of intentionally releasing others to create that generational impact.
So the practical pathways offered in this section, things like gift mapping in communities.
Right, figuring out what assets you have.
Forming small partnership cells, establishing consistent rhythms of sharing stories.
Yeah, and implementing structures for mutual accountability.
They provide a tangible framework, don't they, for transforming what might just be isolated efforts into these interconnected collaborative networks with potentially exponential reach.
But again, just like any significant growth process, there are inherent challenges.
Such as?
The potential pitfall of clinging to control. We all like control.
Guilty.
Unconscious cultural blind spots.
Yeah.
Concerns about long-term sustainability.
Okay, so what are the redemptive strategies for navigating those?
Emphasizing the importance of intentionally relinquishing control where it's appropriate. Prioritizing ongoing cross-cultural learning. And embedding rhythms of rest and renewal right into the fabric of our partnerships.
Rest and renewal. Often forgotten.
Crucial. It all circles back to that central, profound idea. God's mission advances most effectively through partnerships that mirror the interwoven life of the Trinity.
So we are, at our core, designed to multiply our impact by intentionally joining hands and hearts.
That seems to be the message. Then there's the concept of sowing beyond the balance sheet.
Intriguing title.
It really invites us to fundamentally shift our perspective on what multiplication truly means in a kingdom context.
So it's not just about quantifiable numbers like dollars raised or people reached.
Not merely. It's presented as a deeper spiritual phenomenon that transforms individual hearts, entire communities.
Those parables of the mustard seed and the leaven come to mind.
Exactly. They remind us that seemingly small beginnings, when offered in faith and nurtured within community, can yield an outsized impact.
And that true organic growth often happens through those close-knit relationships and shared purpose.
Right. And the idea of the ecosystem of grace.
Ecosystem of grace.
Where givers, those directly involved in ministry, new believers, they're all interconnected, mutually nourishing one another.
Ah, so it highlights that it's not a one-way transactional you give, we receive dynamic.
Not at all. It's more like a transformational you give, and in that very act, we both grow and flourish.
Wow. And even the act of support raising itself gets reframed.
Completely. Not as like begging or persuading.
Which it can sometimes feel like.
Right. But as an integral aspect of discipleship, an invitation for others to actively participate in Jesus' ongoing mission.
So it's a shared spiritual journey, embracing accountability and stewardship together.
Exactly. And the source talks about the powerful ripple effect when even one believer steps out in radical generosity.
How does that ripple work?
Well, it encourages others to do the same, which can lead to the transformation of communities and ultimately grows the positive reputation, the witness, of the gospel.
Okay.
The example given of the Manila Congregation's Kingdom Impact Fund provides a really tangible illustration of this principle in action.
And the practical pathways offered for ministry leaders here focus on embedding this culture of generosity right into the DNA of their vision casting.
Yes, and providing ongoing spiritual formation, specifically around giving, creating diverse, layered opportunities for people to participate.
Not just one way to give.
Right. And intentionally celebrating every milestone of generosity and impact as a communal triumph, not just an organizational one.
It sounds like it's about cultivating a vibrant personal encounter with God's purposes in the world,
Yeah.
rather than settling for just a sterile, impersonal financial transaction.
Exactly. The final thought in that section is really compelling. God has entrusted us with this constantly multiplying movement of grace.
And true, lasting impact is ultimately about lives being transformed from the inside out.
That's the core.
Okay, moving now beyond the ledger. The source presents this enriching idea of kingdom partnership as, well, back to the tapestry idea.
Right. Intricate and beautiful.
Woven together with a diverse array of contributions, not just dollars and cents.
No. But also valuable skills, heartfelt prayers, essential knowledge, meaningful relationships.
It's fundamentally about the power of sharing our uniquely given gifts, whatever they are.
And the theological foundations laid here emphasize again that this spirit of collaboration is actually woven into the fabric of creation itself.
Reflecting the relational nature of the Trinity and our creation in God's image.
Yes, and that powerful concept of covenantal commitment, ultimately sealed by Christ's sacrifice, is absolutely key to understanding this deeper level of partnership.
And when we look at the early church again, we see vivid examples of this multifaceted collaboration in action, don't we?
Absolutely. The intentional sharing of practical skills, the transfer of crucial knowledge,
And mobilizing networks strategically.
and that foundational power of consistent prayer partnership. It becomes really clear that this kind of holistic collaboration was there right from the start of the Christian movement.
Right.
And the dynamics of exponential impact become so important to grasp here. The incredible synergy when diverse gifts come together. The far-reaching leverage of well-connected networks, the sustained power of ongoing collaboration that can achieve things way beyond what any individual could do alone.
And the examples provided, like the citywide tutoring initiative or the business's mission network.
Yeah, they offer compelling modern-day illustrations of this principle really working.
So the practical pathways offered for actively cultivating these collaborative ecosystems include things like taking a thorough inventory of available gifts and needs in a community.
Yep, know your assets. Creating accessible platforms for connection and communication.
Okay, making it easy to connect.
Recognizing prayer as foundational infrastructure, not just an add-on.
Prayer as infrastructure. I like that.
And establishing clear mechanisms for both accountability and celebration.
It sounds like a tangible, actionable roadmap for leaders who really want to foster this kind of environment.
And the broader implications of embracing this go way beyond just individual projects, right?
Seems so. We see the potential for holistic renewal within communities.
The church truly embodying unity in its beautiful diversity.
And a vibrant kingdom culture becoming, hopefully, increasingly contagious. It's about intentionally moving away from isolated efforts.
Yeah.
And towards creating this powerful symphony of grace.
Then the source directly addresses the imperative of partnership in a fluid age.
Fluid age, meaning our rapidly changing world.
Exactly. Emphasizing that in this context, embracing partnership isn't just like a nice option anymore.
It's essential.
It's presented as an absolute essential for effective, relevant kingdom engagement.
Why now, particularly?
Well, the realities of increasing globalization, the pervasive reach of digital networks, the growing trend of urbanization, the shifting landscape of post-Christian societies.
Oh, a huge shift.
They all necessitate multi-layered cross-cultural collaborations. The early church's model of strategically partnering with local believers is highlighted again as really important for navigating these complexities.
And the rise of digital church alliances, those virtual vineyards you mentioned.
Yeah, they offer incredible, previously unimaginable opportunities to connect believers across time zones, pool diverse expertise,
Right.
and the increasing concentration of people in urban centers that presents unique, often complex challenges.
Which require.
Robust coalitions, churches, NGOs, social enterprises working together in innovative ways to tackle these multifaceted issues.
Okay.
The example of the Urban Hope Alliance in Metro Manila gives a concrete picture of that kind of collaborative effort.
And in places where Christianity isn't the dominant cultural story anymore.
Well, intentionally embracing, perhaps unexpected allies,
Interesting.
and demonstrating the tangible reality of the gospel through acts of service, rather than just relying on theological arguments, becomes absolutely crucial for building trust, sowing seeds of genuine curiosity.
Makes sense. Show, don't just tell.
Right. And the practical roadmap for operationalizing partnership in this fluid, changing age includes conducting thorough landscape analyses, understanding the context,
Okay, know your ground.
intentionally cultivating key relationships, establishing clear frameworks for shared governance,
Shared governance. Important, but tricky.
strategically leveraging the synergy of combined resources, and embracing a mindset of iterative learning and adaptation.
So learning as you go.
Exactly. It's fundamentally about learning to plant and cultivate together, even when the ground feels like it's shifting beneath your feet.
Wow. Okay, then there's a section on passing the torch of grace.
Yes, focusing on the vital divine mandate to intentionally raise up others.
So multiplying not just the mission's reach.
No, but also actively discipling those who give and strategically raising up future leaders and fundraisers. It's about the people pipeline.
And the scriptural foundations for this are clear too.
Very clear, very consistent. From God's initial commission in the garden, the promise to Abraham, to the recurring examples of intentional handover, relational transmission in Moses and Joshua, Barnabas and John Mark, Paul and Timothy.
So the underlying principles that emerge are things like intentional investment in others.
Yes. The power of relational transmission, passing on skills and vision.
Empowering rather than creating dependency.
Crucial. And adopting a long-term legacy-oriented mindset. These are all key for cultivating a true culture of multiplication.
And we see modern examples of this.
Definitely. Churches intentionally creating giving circles to empower new givers. Experienced marketplace leaders mentoring younger professionals.
So this timeless principle can be effectively applied in lots of different contemporary contexts.
Absolutely. To create powerful multiplying movements.
And the practical framework offered for intentionally cultivating this lasting legacy of multiplication includes things like identifying and inviting potential future leaders.
Yes. Actively engaging them in a shared journey of growth. Strategically empowering and then releasing them into greater responsibility.
And enshrining the vision for future generations.
Consistently. It provides concrete, actionable steps for leaders at any level.
It really sounds like it's about fundamentally shifting our focus, moving from just executing tasks and hitting short-term goals to investing in the very soul of kingdom expansion, recognizing that our most enduring legacy isn't just what we accomplish,
No.
but it's defined by the capable, passionate leaders we intentionally raise up and equip.
Exactly. Then there's this powerful concept of moving from empty wells to overflowing fountains.
Okay, what's that challenging?
It directly challenges that pervasive scarcity mindset that can so often dominate our thinking.
The feeling that there's never enough.
Right. And instead, it invites us to wholeheartedly embrace God's abundant provision, encouraging us to see potential supporters not merely as sources of funding, as deep wells of potential, just waiting to be stirred and brought to the surface.
So this foundational theological understanding of abundance, it shifts our focus away from what people can give to us.
Yes, and towards the incredible things God can accomplish through people when their hearts align with His purposes.
It's about tapping into a dynamic, self-sustaining ecosystem of multiplication.
Right. And the critical importance of intentional mentorship, specifically in support raising, mirroring Paul and Timothy again, is highlighted as the very heartbeat of this effective train-the-trainer approach.
Okay.
And the concept of stewardship discipleship is presented as much broader than just carefully managing money.
What else does it include?
The intentional wise use of our time, our unique talents, our personal testimony, teaching both givers and goers how to steward all these resources intentionally.
That cultivates deeper spiritual maturity, greater kingdom impact.
That's the idea. And the practical steps offered for bridging the gap between theory and practice include casting a compelling vision of abundance,
Okay, start with the vision.
launching intentional mentorship cohorts, implementing accessible resource hubs, and consistently measuring not just inputs, but the tangible outcomes of multiplication.
So tracking the ripple effect.
Yes, it provides a clear pathway for building a sustainable pipeline of committed kingdom builders.
It's ultimately about creating a legacy that's not carved in static stone, is it?
No, but rather etched in the living stones of transformed lives.
Recognizing that God's resources, his people, are far too vast, too numerous, to ever be contained within our limited human perspectives.
Exactly.
Okay, so the final section we explored, from vision to legacy, really powerfully brings together the urgent need for present action with the enduring importance of creating lasting impact. It emphasizes that the vital call to raise up others demands we intentionally weave both those threads together
into a rich, enduring tapestry of lasting influence.
Yeah, and the biblical mandate for intentional legacy coaching, clearly seen again in Moses and Joshua, Paul, and Timothy.
Right, those enduring examples.
Highlights the key principles: intentional investment, progressive entrustment of responsibility, reciprocal accountability.
And the actionable insights provided, like a 12-month legacy coaching plan, a reproducible training outline, a practical Raise Up Others commissioning worksheet.
Those offer tangible, ready-to-use tools for leaders.
Yes. For leaders committed to intentionally cultivating a robust culture of multiplication within their spheres of influence.
And that crucial shift from transactions to transformation in how we approach support raising is so essential, isn't it?
Absolutely vital. It's about intentionally moving beyond just asking for money.
Right.
To actively enlisting passionate partners in a shared, compelling vision and engaging in the ongoing discipleship of those who give.
So this transformative approach involves leading with a clear, inspiring vision, compelling stories of impact.
Always actively inviting meaningful participation at various levels.
And communicating the real-world impact of their contributions with transparency and integrity.
Crucial. And the discipleship of giving, in turn, involves teaching sound biblical principles of stewardship, encouraging consistent spiritual practices around generosity, and fostering a strong sense of community among givers.
And intentionally mentoring for multiplication goes even further.
Yes, equipping those who are already giving to become effective inspirers of others, creating that powerful, self-sustaining ripple effect of generosity and leadership development.
And the personal story of Anna and Miguel illustrates this
beautifully. It shows the profound principle in action.
So ultimately, reframing the entire concept of support raising as an integral part of discipleship, it leads to deeper spiritual growth in givers.
Yes, significant leadership development in those who mentor.
And the creation of resilient, sustainable partnerships that go way beyond just individual projects or immediate needs.
That's the promise. So stepping back, the sources we've explored today, they collectively advocate for a pretty fundamental, maybe even revolutionary shift
in how we approach both mission and the support that undergirds it.
Yeah, the core idea is this powerful paradigm shift where authentic partnership and intentionally raising up others become the central engines for lasting impact.
Moving us away from those often unsustainable transactional funding models.
Right, and towards a mindset really rooted in abundance and shared purpose.
You know, one particularly compelling concept that really resonated with me was that vivid image of the celestial tapestry. Intricately woven with countless diverse threads, each contributing its unique strength, its beauty to the whole design.
Yeah, that's powerful. Or the example of Anna and Miguel.
Right, where support raising became a genuine act of discipleship, leading to that exponential growth and impact.
Which naturally leads to a crucial question for you, our listener.
Yeah, think about this.
Considering your own areas of interest, maybe the challenges you're facing right now, or the goals you're actively striving for, how might these principles of multiplying partnership actually apply?
What if? Just what if the most significant leverage for your work lies not in just securing the next big resource, but in intentionally empowering others to become multipliers themselves?
Take a moment, maybe, to consider the profound implications if every single act of support, every collaboration you enter into,
was viewed not as a final endpoint, a one-time transaction, but rather as a seed. A seed with the inherent potential for exponential growth. What entirely new possibilities might that unlock?
Yeah, for the future of the movements, the missions that are closest to your heart.
The sources we've looked at strongly suggest that true, lasting impact isn't solely about what you can accomplish through your individual efforts.
No, it's about the vibrant, self-sustaining ecosystems of generosity, collaboration, purposeful action that you can help cultivate and create.
So maybe the final thought is this. What's one connection you might intentionally make today
Or one individual you might proactively empower, even in a small way.
to begin that powerful ripple effect in your own sphere of influence?